Hello and welcome back to the Optimized Equine podcast. Today I'm excited to introduce you to Ezra Yoder of No Reins Performance Horses out of Worcester, Ohio. So welcome, Ezra. Thank you so much for talking with me today.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Yes. I'll mention before I have you introduce yourself, how I found you, which was I came across a video of your Bridle-less mounted shooting exhibition, and I was very intrigued. I thought that was super cool. And from there, after looking at your page and some of the things that are findable out there, I was really impressed with how your horses, I mean, obviously it's impressive that you can do that bridleless, but I was also really impressed with how your horses seem to respond to and understand the bridle in the things I saw where you were using tack. And so I thought that was really great. They seem to have a true understanding through their whole body, not just in their face, you might say. I feel like that really translates for me through a lot of things that I saw. So I really appreciated that and wanted to get to know you. So I reached out. So why don't you fill us in a little bit about you and your business and your background?
All right. Yes, I'm Ezra Yoder, from No Reins Performing Horses. I train horses for the Cowboy mounted shooting. Mostly I do a lot of colt starting too, as far as for different disciplines. Um, I grew up Amish, loved horses, worked with horses like every day. Not towards the riding horses, but drafts and driving horses and stuff. So that's where I came from, and I started riding and loving it, and just working on getting to know the horse better and see how far what I can do with them. So yeah.
Um, Now, how did you know you wanted to pursue a career in horses? What was that something that was on your mind when you were, you said you grew up Amish. When you were Amish, was that something that ever crossed your mind? Or if you would have said that to a younger you, would he have been like, what? You're crazy.
Yeah, no, I did not. That was not something that I thought that I was gonna do. I always loved to work with horses and stuff. Growing up Amish, it wasn't really where I didn't have the idea that I could actually make a living working with horses. I love to spend around the horses and train the horses and stuff. But it wasn't a goal to like just train horses for a living. So that was definitely something new that came from.
That came later. And is
Yes.
there like an obvious turning point or like light bulb moment? Or, sometimes, like for me, I feel like meeting certain people turned a big corner for me and made me realize like totally different things. Was it like that, or it just kind of gradually happened?
Yeah, it was kind of. I worked for my neighbor. He had a lot of driving horses, and so he got a couple riding horses in, and he was always the one that I would be the one to get on first, on the riding horses. And so I started doing that, and he gave me a horse for Christmas one year, and I started riding that horse, and that was probably my turning point on like that I knew that I wanted to ride horses. Um, it was still not where I'm like, I'm gonna go full time just riding horses, but that was definitely a point where I was like, yes, like this is what I want to do.
Cool. And what horse was that? Was that the horse you did mounted shooting on, or was that before that?
That was the horse before that. Yes.
Okay, yeah.
Yes.
Um, and so at that point, it sounds like it just kind of grew from there. You kept riding, kept training. Can you tell us a bit about when you turned the corner to mounted shooting? How did that come up?
So yes, I had 3, 4 horses of my own that I trained and sold for about 3 years. And I still have my day job and working and stuff. And I was actually boarding my horses at a facility that they did the shooting. And one weekend they were like, why don't you just come along with us to the expo and stuff that they had that weekend. And I knew the one horse that I had that I was able to shoot off and stuff. So I went with them to that shoot and went in for my very first pattern and started shooting. And my horse did awesome. I was clean on my very first stage, and I was definitely hooked from there on. Like, I knew
Yeah.
what I wanted to do. So,
Yeah. And so from there, at what point did you go professional in mounted shooting?
it was probably about 2 years after I started shooting locally here. I had a job offer to come train for somebody. Um, and that's kind of when I made the turning point of like stopping my job and go full time to training. That's kind of where I started doing my go to professionally in the shooting. So,
Awesome. Um, can you tell us a little bit about your horse and kind of the progression of when you did it bridleless the first time? When you took the bridle off, how did that come about or come into your mind as something you wanted to do?
so I was basically just riding her every day at home, and I actually started her bridleless before I started it professionally. So I still had a day job, and I was just riding her at home, and I decided to take the bridle off to just see what she would do. And I had her really connected with my seat and my legs and stuff, and she listened so well that I was like, well, the next time I'm gonna go shoot, I'm gonna start shooting bridleless. Um, and that's how I started. I definitely had still a lot of stuff to work on when I first went to my first shoot, but she did really good. So
And so you are actually allowed to compete bridleless, correct?
yes, you are.
And that just comes as a surprise to me a little bit because they're in like the English disciplines and hunter jumper and dressage and things like that. Like they would not allow that.
Yeah,
I have seen some things where that's starting to change a little bit, which I think is cool, but possibly for good reason. They have too many safety concerns, I think, to let you.
yeah,
But I mean, even in the Western world, there's so much in Western where like you couldn't even be in a snaffle, like you have to be in a curb bed and things like that. So I think that's really awesome that they will let you, that they'll let
yeah.
you do. There's to do, you know.
Yes, there's no benefit into not having the bridle on as far as not you don't get extra points or anything like that. But yes, they still let you compete.
Great. And so do you feel like when you compete bridleless, I know they are not giving you any benefit. Do you feel like you get a benefit competing bridleless? I mean, I guess you must or you would put the bridle back on, right?
Yes, it keeps me like very committed to riding with my seat, trusting my horse, letting her do her thing, staying out of her way when I'm showing, and it really helps me, pushes me to keep progressing my ability in using more seat, leg, and yeah, just letting her do her thing instead of getting in her way when I'm out there running hard.
Right. Now, would you say that the way you ride with a bridle has changed much now that you have started riding bridleless? Like, did that lead to much of an evolution, or would you say that it worked well the first time because you were already riding in a way that supported?
I think it definitely has helped me a lot. Just riding a lot more with my seat and not relying on my reins as much. Since I did more bridleless. Uh, I would definitely say it's made a difference.
Yeah, I don't. I think it would have to almost. Have to. It's so tempting, even when you are using a bridle really compassionately and really softly. I feel like, man, it's just right there. Of course, you want to use it. If it's not there, you're sort of forced to think a little differently.
Right. It just keeps you I feel like for me to ride bridleless and then get on a horse that I'm not doing bridleless, my instincts is still to go to my seat and my legs and not just yank on them with my reins.
Mm-hmm. Now, would you say it's a goal on every horse you ride to get bridleless? Like for your stallion example, I know you have a stallion. Is that like the pinnacle you aim for, or is it just if it suits the horse kind of?
I would love to. I definitely have a goal for him bridleless. I ride him bridleless all the time, and I did like my rodeo shows and stuff. That I used him his 4-year-old year, and I did most all of my performance bridleless on him. I have not put him in the competition as much as I did my mare riding bridleless.
Yeah.
I know I still have a lot to work on for him to get him to where I can compete bridleless and like run him like really hard, and also making sure he stays with me,
Yeah.
like really good competing at a high level.
Yeah. It's definitely a different deal when you're doing that speed and that pattern and add gunfire to it. And the whole energy, that's just a whole different ball game of connection required.
And a still horse is more, they're more intensive, pushing through a little bit more than my mare. She's really sensitive, so she wants to really get away from the pressure.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and she's really good at really feeling my seat and my legs and stuff. My stud horse, I feel like he's more, yes, he'll like compete hard for me, but he's not as reactive. So it's gonna take a little bit more time for him to really figure it out and um stay soft, being bridleless.
Yeah. And how old is he?
Yeah, he turned 7 this year.
7. And how long have you had him?
I've had him since he was a year and a half old.
Okay, so you started him and
Yes.
all that. Cool. Can you tell me, like the exhibition performances that you do? How did you get into that? Where did that begin? And what do you do in that? What does that involve?
So a couple years ago, I never performed anywhere. I did the shooting, and I had a Wild West show contact me to do just the regular shooting, bridleless on my mare, to be in the show. And then I started doing that. I added the fire and stuff in my balloons. I added the fire bullwhip. Um, and then it just picked off from there. People started calling me from all over. I went twice to the um, IFR contests
Mm-hmm.
for special acts, for the rodeos. So I went out there, um, and competed in that. And so that's how it came along. I was not planning on doing anything like it, and
Yeah.
I just had people reach out to me and wanted me to come perform.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
So at this point, what is your business looking like? Is it mostly horse training, or is it a blend of going to competitions and sounds like these exhibitions and park horse training? How's it? What are you doing these days?
yeah, so I have 8 training courses in consistently, 8 to 10. Um, and then I go on weekends, I go to some of the competitions in the shooting. I try and do some of the range riding stuff as well. But yes, other than that, I just training and
And do
teaching
you?
people.
Well, I was just gonna say, do you in those training horses? Is it you just training horses in like a colt starting type format, or are you working with the clients as well and taking clients to competitions and that kind of thing?
I'm taking clients to competitions, doing lessons, want a lot of lessons one-on-one here at my facility. I would like to start doing some clinics and stuff this winter, so we'll see how that goes.
And so when you say clinics, is that for you a horsemanship clinic, a mounted shooting clinic, a bridle-less riding clinic? What kind of clinics are you doing or want to do?
It'll be horsemanship. I'm trying to do 2 days, so I can do the first day do just the horsemanship, and then the second day taking the horsemanship and the shooting together and start the shooting.
And so let's say in your program, a horse, they're just starting out at competing in mounted shooting. What does a week look like for that horse?
Basically, it depends a lot on the horse. I'll do some patterns and stuff, just loping through the pattern, and shooting some. I will probably shoot 2 to 3 days that week, and then the other days, I just ride them or go for a trail ride and just do something else. I don't want to just focus on the shooting because, especially young horse, they get burnt out too quick, and um, so I try to mix it up. Like every other day, I do something else.
Gotcha. Okay. So cross training a bit. Some days are arena days for shooting, some days are arena days for other things, and some days it's just whatever. Sounds like.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's good.
I feel like it just really helps them. If you can take them out for a day and just go trail ride, um, they might get tired, but it's physically not high stress.
Mm.
Um, and they really need that. If you're competing at a high level in a fast sport, um, it takes a lot more of those days of just going out and not making them mentally work very hard.
And I would assume the higher the level they're competing at, the better they already know their job, the less you really need to practice it, I'm assuming.
Yes, so like my personal horses that I have, my stud horse and my mare, I never practice at home to do the shooting. I'll ride them and just work on softness and my seat and stuff in the arena, and then trail ride. And that's all I work on them for to keep them into competing at the high level.
That's great. And I mean, not that I think there's anything wrong with having it be another way, but I think that that is great because it's so much considering like their mind and their body. Like there's no need to go do it over and over and over again, you know?
Right. Once they know it, um, you can work a lot on a lot of different stuff just riding in the arena that will help you in the show pen when you're running really hard and just getting enough shoulder control, hip control, um, rate and stuff like that, where you're just riding them and but you're not running patterns and stuff like that.
Mhm.
Because they mentally they can't handle just running patterns over and over.
Well, and physically either, really.
Right.
You know, none of it really can handle it over and over again. Um, so in your training, um, have you kind of gotten influence from other areas, be it other mentors or trainers, or like have you looked at other disciplines and learned things? Again, like for me, I was deep in the hunter jumper way of going for the longest time. And then as I kind of went into other things to seek new information, it's like it would just open up these whole other worlds. So have you kind of like dived into any other disciplines, or is there any people that have influenced you quite a bit?
I would say I definitely I watch the ringing cow horse a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's I haven't actually went and tried to do the showing in the raining cow horse.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I my training is based off Chris Cox. That's who I would say is kind of my mentor um, on my training. Um, I've obviously I watch a lot of different trainers, just seeing what they do on different stuff, and then I just kind of take from each one to what I feel like works for my training.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
And so in your training program, do you use things like, well, and this is not just training, I guess this is training and competing. Do you use tie downs? Um, do you feel like you need to use a lot of different kinds of bits? Like what kind of stuff do you feel like is beneficial in that way in your training program, or not?
I don't use a tie down or anything like that. Um, I would I feel like if you go to tie down, it's more for a skip uh spot in the training. Um, as far as bits, I have a couple of different bits that I use. Just depending kind of what the horse likes. Um, I think the biggest thing would be staying in a snaffle a long time. I really like to ride my horses in a snaffle for a long period of time, and then I'll switch them to a short shank or something like that, um, with a loose mouthpiece
Mm-hmm.
when I'm running hard.
Yeah. I mean, I guess if you can do the job bridleless, I imagine you can do it without a tie down. Obviously, that kind of seems obvious. But I feel like I ask on the tie down thing because in the little bit of mounted shooting things I've seen, it seems like there's a lot of that pressure with the bit, and the tie down kind of keeps them from escaping it, you know? So, I mean, I guess what I'm seeing there is the same as what you're saying, is like it kind of just allows you to skip a step and pull hard rather than get the understanding through the body.
Yeah, I feel like it teaches them actually to push against pressure. That's kind of what the tie down is. Some people want to use it for them to brace on it. Um, and it almost kind of teaches them to brace on something. Um,
So when you
that's
say brace on it, you mean kind of lean on it as part of their balance in the hard maneuver or turn
yes,
they're being asked. Okay.
yes. I have one in here right now that was actually started with the tie down. And when I first got him, he would go for that tie down and just bring his head really up, and then his whole back would go down, and his form, like his back, he didn't have a very good top line just because he was always bringing his head up and bracing on the tie down. And even he wasn't very soft. He was very pushy through his face. That was a lot of my experience has been that between using tie downs and stuff.
Yeah. And so did you say you did get that horse kind of to the other side of it, or you're working on that now?
I have got him where he's getting really soft and
Okay, so he is now going with tie down. I feel like in horses I've seen, it's not always necessarily called a tie down, the horses that I am working with, but it's the same thing. It's, jumping horses maybe that have had a running martingale that's always relied on, or the draw rein, is always being relied on for certain things and stuff like that. And it's like they are so used to it being there. And then when it's not there, it's like they're still just as fixated, like they can't stop thinking about their front end, and it just takes all the emphasis out of where the power really is. It's like
right.
there's nothing back there. They're just too busy having this interaction up in their front end and their head and their neck, and rightly so, I suppose. So
Yeah, this horse that I just got in, he would come up to a barrel turn and just really brace on tie down,
mm,
and his back end would almost swing around barrel instead of his front end coming around, he would completely lose all his back end just because he was kind of down in the front and bracing on the tie down.
Yeah, expecting to have that thing to lean on there as he goes.
Right.
Yeah,
Yes.
interesting. Um, in in the mounted shooting world, like if, obviously there's plenty of horses that are going around like that. Not to pick on the mounted shooting world. We know it's happening in all the disciplines, really, but let's just, in your world, how common would you say like body work and maintenance on the horses and that kind of a thing is? Is that a very common thing for people who are competing? And I say that kind of as a whole as well as for you and your horses.
Yes. At the competitions and stuff, usually, there's a lot of people that will have people work on their horses. If I'm at a competition, usually I have somebody go over them once a day or once every other day when I'm competing really hard and just making sure they're staying loose through their shoulders and back. I would say it's definitely very common. Like usually we have one or two chiropractors and some magnoath and stuff at day events.
Yeah. And I think it's like on one hand, I think it's fantastic, and those are all such good things that horses should have, especially if you're asking them to go do things like that at that level. And on the other hand, I think there's some people that because it's just expected that the horse is going to get sore and they're going to get their body work treatment or whatever afterwards, they don't really try to ride any better. Or like you're saying, like they don't teach the horse. It's not a priority to them to teach the horse how to go around the barrel in a more healthy way for their body so they get less sore. You get what I'm saying there?
Absolutely.
I feel like it's just like, yeah, horses do this hard sport and they get sore, and we do whatever they need to make them better rather than like, well, you could pull on them less. You could get them more soft and relaxed and they would just be less sore. So that's the thing that I think, I asked about it because I do think in every discipline that's competitive or athletic at all, that's a really common thing. People are just like, I do the best for my horses. I'm like, you're putting a lot of that soreness in there, like you're doing that.
Not doing enough.
So
Not doing enough work at home, just setting them up for success and getting them very balanced. I feel like in our sport, I feel like there's a lot too on not really warming the horse up for a good period of time before you go compete. And I feel like that's something that's very important is just making sure their muscles and everything's already warmed up before you go in there to make the fast run.
yeah, and it's like finding that athletic relaxation where it's like they can be soft and ready to go at the same time.
Yes.
I think that's super important. And I think that's really, if we zoom back out to it again, it's really what I could see in your horses. I specifically remember a video of your stallion, and you're doing something fast and crazy as far as I'm concerned, and you use the bridle, and you had to use it, but he just whoop, got it, like no problem. There was no tension created from that use of the bridle, and I feel like a lot of horses in those scenarios, they're just getting it done. And when the bridle is used, it's used as like this form of control, and it creates this big tension, and it gets the control done, but it creates this big tension rather than, and then the athleticism has to push through that tension, rather than at a pace of having the relaxation and the athleticism. So it's like you can say something and it doesn't tense anything up, and yet you're still running too, you know? So I think that's really cool and rare in a lot of disciplines, and certainly in the little bit I've seen in yours, I think that's very cool and rare.
Thank you.
Can you tell me a little bit about where people can find you and, if they want to connect with you about a clinic or horse training or to watch a performance, where could they find you?
You can find me on Facebook, Instagram. You can also send me email. It's on my Facebook account where you can find my email, and I will send out my clinic dates and stuff to those emails.
Cool. I will make sure to put that in the notes so people can find you. Let's call it a day if that works for you.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. Well, it was fun chatting. That's a wrap. Thank you for listening. If you can, please rate or review the show, subscribe, comment, share with a friend. We also really appreciate your participation on social media. Anything you may be called to do will help us reach new listeners and help the style of horsemanship to flourish. Until next time, happy horsing.